Game 2 of the NBA Finals tonight, and I've got your side selection for one of today's free plays, the other one being on the game in the American League between the Mariners and the Rangers. Before that, listen, I've been in or around the sports world for 25 years, and over that time, I cannot tell you how much memorabilia I've been given. Listen, in my house, probably at my mom's house, in boxes that I haven't even opened in years, I probably have about 30,000 baseball cards because I used to collect them up until the late 80s. Just not interested anymore. I have probably more signed footballs sitting around in boxes that, to be honest with you, I'm not sure where they are, of Joe Namath and Emmitt Smith and Joe Montana and Dwight Clark and Troy Aikman. I mean, they're all floating around too. Super Bowl memorabilia, stuff that former associates in the business world have given me when they've attended games. Means nothing to me. And in my entire house, I have just one single bit of sports memorabilia available for public view. And that's the picture that you always see half over my head here as I'm doing the video reports. That, of course, even though the light is glaring on it, is Ali and Liston. When Ali, in that famous photo, was imploring Liston to get off the canvas in that huge second bout between the two. Because Muhammad Ali has always been my favorite athlete. And I am not one of these guys that walks around with jerseys with somebody's uniform number with their name on the back. Never have done that in my life. I am not one of these hero-worshipping guys, a fanboy for athletes. Listen, the first time as a reporter that I ever stepped into a locker room, I stepped into a locker room with Kareem, Magic Johnson, James Worthy. And then the second locker room I stepped into, Julius Erving was the first guy I ran into. Okay, so, it's kind of hard to go much higher after starting there, but they were just guys. But I covered boxing for almost 8 years when I was a reporter. Interviewed Frazier and Larry Holmes and Tyson and Michael Spinks and Hagler and Sugar Ray and Duran, and counted many of them, especially Hagler, Leonard, and Duran, among my favorite fighters. The one guy I never got to meet, but the one guy that I liked the most, Muhammad Ali. Now, first fight I ever saw was Muhammad Ali. I'm at a mall in Pottstown, Pennsylvania with my father, early 70s. It was the first fight against Ken Norton. I can remember we're in a Sears store. My mom and my sister are out shopping someplace, and we're standing there. And remember when TVs used to be in these giant pieces of furniture? That's the thing that always struck me when I was a kid. Little TV, big piece of furniture, okay? I remember standing there, and it was an RCA television, and my father and I are sitting there, and we're watching the fight on television. And, of course, that is the one where Norton broke Ali's jaw. He went the distance. He lost the decision, eventually came back and beat him not once but twice. And that was my first exposure to Ali, but I just loved the way he moved in the ring. And back in those days, and one of the reasons boxing is not as popular as it once was, is because then, in those days, you always had good fights on TV for free. It wasn't these pay-per-view extravaganzas where top-notch boxers fought once a year. No, so, you could turn on TV and watch Ali against Shaver. You can watch, Ali against Jimmy Young, Alfredo Evangelista, guys like this. Some of them tomato cans, some of them top-notch fights, like Ali against Norton, etc. But that's where I first got into it, and I used to always watch those matches with my father. And everybody's got a Muhammad Ali story, I think, if you were a reporter at one time or another. And mine's like on the peripheral of the whole bit. So in college, here I am a teenager, and I've got a sports talk show. I co-hosted a sports talk show. I went to Temple in Philadelphia. And at that time, there were no ESPN radio networks, nothing like that. There was one other local sports talk show, maybe two, but we owned that Monday night. We owned that 2-hour block on Monday night. Being in Philadelphia, where boxing was so big at the time, we constantly talk boxing. And we had such a reach that we were going from Philadelphia to the tri-state area, New Jersey and Delaware. Cable stations were carrying our signal clear across Pennsylvania. So we had a massive audience, and we played to the audience because they loved boxing. Because in those days, it was easy to call Joe Frazier's promoter and say, hey, can we get Joe on for a couple minutes? Boom. Randall Tex Cobb, great guy. A great story I'll tell you sometime about Randall Tex Cobb. But, he used to come into the studio and hang and do interviews with us. So, we always had access. It was that easy. You call Easton, you get Larry Holmes on the phone. It was a different time, a different era. So one night we're talking boxing, and now, Joe Louis was at that time perceived as, the greatest heavyweight champion with Ali right there. So somebody called in and said, if Joe Louis fought Muhammad Ali, who would win? And I started breaking down in my analysis. Well, are we talking about Muhammad Ali or are we talking about Cassius Clay? Because there's two different boxers. Remember, there was a 3.5-year gap when he refused to enter the draft. That cost him probably the 3 prime years of his career, 27 to 30. Before then, as Cassius Clay, when he beat Liston, when he won the Olympic gold, there was nobody faster. You had a heavyweight guy who weighed in generally between 206 and 212, who had a jab that was just incredible, who could move with those legs around the ring. And I said that Joe Louis, if he connected with that punch, it was going to hurt you. But I knew Ali could take, or Cassius Clay, and eventually Ali, to be honest with you, could take a punch. And I just thought that the mobility, the way that he would be able to accumulate points using his jab, he would win the decision. I said, is Muhammad Ali the latter-day version, post-draft, post-reinstatement to the boxing world? That it would be a tougher fight, but I still thought that based on the way that he took the punishment from George Foreman, took the punishment from Joe Frazier, especially in the thriller in Manila, that I still thought that he would win the fight. So I broke it all down. 2 calls later, we get a guy calls in, and I could tell it was an elderly gentleman, and he said, Al, you broke that down exactly. That's exactly how it would be. It was so astute, breaking it down, Cassius Clay versus Muhammad Ali, different stages of their career. And then he started talking boxing. And my co-host said, you sound like you know a lot about boxing. Are you affiliated with the game? And the guy said what his name was. And he said his name was Zach. And we said, Zach who? And he said, Zach Clayton. Zach Clayton, the man who was the referee for the Rumble in the Jungle, George Foreman and Muhammad Ali. To have a guy like that, a guy who I think his first championship fight that he refereed was like in 1952, Jersey Joe Walcott against Ezra Charles, a guy who first started officiating back in 1949, to call up and tell me that my analysis was right on the button. You can't get any better than that. And that's the thing. If I have to think about everything I've done in my career, I thought, wow, I really knew my crap when it came to boxing. But anyway, Ali was always my favorite. Never got to meet him. Met Angelo Dundee, his trainer, a couple of times. Angelo Dundee was the type of guy you'd say, hi, and then he talked for the next 14 minutes. And then you'd get your first question out. And then he talked for another 32 minutes. He was like a reporter's dream. You just threw the microphone there, or you had your little tape recorder and you just played it, because the man would just go on and on and on. Great stuff. But anyway, passed away. You know the rest of the deal. So let's get to your basketball play tonight. Listen, I like the Cavaliers tonight, but to me, it's a play that's not worth investing on for one reason. Did I lose a 15-dime best bet release on Cleveland in game number 1? Yes, I did. Do I also have a 15-dime play on the Cavaliers at plus $1.90 in the series? Yes, I do. But listen, this isn't like betting the Cleveland Browns at 200 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. This is just a money management move. I had accumulated such a big bankroll through the first 3 rounds of the playoffs, through the first 2 months of the baseball season. I figured, what the hell? I'm going to take the Cavaliers, because at that type of money, I don't even have to worry about bailing out. It's not like I have Golden State at minus 180 and I have to worry about bailing out, God forbid, if the Warriors lose the series in that particular situation. It's just money out there. And in terms of game number 2, listen, I think there's a better baseball game on the board. And to me, a win is a win. It doesn't matter what sport you're betting in. So I look at tonight's game and I go, well, what happened in game number 1 that can change in game number 2? Well, if you've read any of the interviews or you've seen Ty Lue on TV, the Cavaliers coach, he wants to accelerate the pace. He talked about that from day 1 when he took over the Cavaliers from David Blatt, 4 days after they got annihilated in Cleveland by Golden State. He emphasized that point throughout the postseason, and he wanted to pick up the pace in game number 1, but he still wasn't happy. Even though they had 98 possessions per 100 minutes, which is 4 more than they had been averaging since he took over the team, he still felt, and he put the finger on LeBron James, that the Cavaliers did not accelerate the tempo of the game sufficiently. He wants James bringing that ball up the floor to create opportunities, whether it's him or Irving, but particularly James, and he wants quicker moves to the basket, more aggressive passing, taking advantage of getting the Warriors on their heels defensively. The other thing that Lou pointed out was, in game number 1, the Cavaliers missed 28 shots from the paint. 28 shots from the paint. And I told you in the video report the day after the game, it looked like they were out of sync. Maybe the extended layoff hurt them more than it helped them, which I thought it would be the latter going into that game. Totally out of sync offensively. LeBron had an okay game. Kevin Love had a decent game, although defensively, Draymond Green just ate him up, constantly getting open on backdoor passes and cuts to the basket. Kyrie Irving was awful. You saw Kyrie Irving play that isolation game that he so often falls into. And Lou doesn't want that. Their isolation game, meaning he steps back, he takes those couple of dribbles, he looks to create something. No, Lou wants to accelerate. He wants to be more aggressive on the offensive end. And you're also going to have to get Irving to shoot better than, what was he, 7 for 25 in the game as well. Then you look at the Warriors, and everybody says, hey, Klay Thompson and Steph Curry only had 20 points, and they still won by 15. When's that going to happen again? Well, I pose you this. Do you really think Barbosa and Sean Livingston are going to come off the bench and combine for, 30 or 31 points again and hit 13 out of 15 shots? No, they weren't. So if you take those 30 points and you contribute 20 of them over to Thompson and Curry and give them 40 to 50 for the game, it kind of all equals out. But no ifs, ands, or buts. The Cavaliers have to play some better defense, okay? But their best defense today is going to be taking the ball and be on attack. This is the do-or-die game. I mean, you know how the format goes in the best of 7 now. 2-2-1-1-1. If you have the Cavaliers in the series, you damn well need this game. Yeah, I would like to win the game to have the Cavaliers as a huge plus money situation in the series, but to be honest with you, I'm more than grateful taking the 6 points because I think this is going to be the best Cleveland Cavaliers performance we can get. Now, that doesn't mean the Warriors are going to roll over. Again, I'm not putting money on the game. My best bet is in baseball. But I do believe that we will see Cleveland put forth a much better effort than the Cavaliers did the other night. Now, your other complimentary play, I'm going to go with the red-hot Texas Rangers, who have taken the first 2 games. Hey, before I get to it, playoff statistics so far. Favorites are now 15 games over 500 so far in the postseason at 47-32-1. The under was the way to go in game number 1, 48-32-1. The under 16 games, I hate to say this, over 500, with games staying on the low side of the total, 48-32-1 under. Home teams were 4 games over 500 in round number 1, 4 games over 500 in round number 2. They went 10-3 in the conference finals, and you know who that home team was that covered in game number 1 of the finals. Okay, now I'm going to take Texas here against Seattle. Texas on a 11-3 roll overall after winning the first 2 games of the series, 7-3 on Friday and 10-4 on Saturday. They won 14 of their last 19 in Arlington to improve to 20-9 on the season at home. The offense has been on a roll here. The last 7 games, they have won 6 of those 7, and they've averaged a little over 6.8 runs in that stretch. Meanwhile, Seattle's 1-3 on its current road trip, which began in San Diego, and the only win was when they overcame a 10-run deficit to beat the Padres at Petco on Thursday night. Overall, they've lost 6 of their last 9 games. Derek Holland, a 2.41 earned run average in his last 3 starts. He's not striking out many batters. Season-high 5 strikeouts in a single game this season, giving up a lot of hits, not getting a lot of swing and misses, so opponents are putting the ball in play. But again, 2.41 ERA in his last 3 starts. He gave up 1 run in 6 innings against Cleveland on the road against a now hot-hitting Indians team in his last outing on Monday. Lifetime against the Mariners, 10-4 record, 3.38 earned run average over 18 career outings. Limited them to 4 hits and 6 2/3 shutout innings in Seattle back on April 12th in a road win. So I'm going to take the Rangers in this one as your other complimentary play along with the Cleveland Cavaliers. That'll do it, guys. I wish you well, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow when we do this one more time.